Hi, welcome back. I want to talk about how we receive the messages. When we receive messages from Spirit, it can feel like it's taking forever. If there was a clock and it had a second hand and I was waiting and looking at this clock, sometimes it can feel like, oh my goodness, and I wish these messages could come in a little quicker. If you're doing a reading and the person's not there, it's no big deal. You can just kind of hang out and wait, and in between messages, and it's not it doesn't affect you the same way that when you have somebody sitting there with you, kind of watching you and waiting, for information. Especially when you start getting information, you can see the excitement on the person's face, like they just want more, 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 more. What else are you getting? What else are you getting? And you have to be really careful not to put a lot of pressure on yourself, because mediumship is totally a receiving game. It is not a thinking game. It is a receiving game. And the minute you start thinking, oh, I want this information, or give me this, or why aren't you giving me this information, you're going to block it. You have to just sit and wait. And, our generation, this generation, is not very good. We're into instant gratification, and it just doesn't work that way with Spirit. There is no instant messaging, and, it's not going to come that quick. I mean, I don't think that a reading should take longer than an hour, but most readings can be done probably within a half hour, 45 minutes. But it's the in-between the messages that can feel brutal. It can feel like, wow, this is a long time. But you kind of have to wait it out. You just have to sit there, and you have to just keep relaxing. Before you do a reading, make sure you take some nice deep breaths and get in that very relaxed state. Because when you do connect with Spirit, you really are in a bit of an altered state. You're not in a meditative state, because when you're meditating, your whole body has slowed down, and you're in a very you're in a different state when you're in a meditative state. When you're giving a reading, you're not in a meditative state. You're in an altered state of consciousness where you feel like a little bit different. You feel like maybe a little bit spacey, but you're still your mind is very, very heightened, and your inner senses feel actually almost in excitement. So even though things are slowing down, they're speeding up. It's a little hard to describe, but when you feel it, you'll know it. But you are in a little bit of an altered state. So that's why it's important, before that reading, to do some deep breaths and just to try to relax, and then just try to connect with Spirit and relax and let the messages float in. And you just have to sit and receive. You can't think into a message. It just won't work. So as brutally hard as that could be sometimes, you just really have to wait. You just have to sit there and wait. Okay, I got this. Now what's next? And you have to pay attention to each of your senses. So it's very active. So you may have seen something visually, and you have to check in with your body. Am I feeling anything in my body? Am I sensing anything? Am I getting anything any other way? Am I getting anything in my environment? So it's a very active language. So you really have to pay attention to all of that. So don't freak out when you feel like the information isn't coming in that quick. We all feel that way. It can feel like a really long time. And then the other thing that's really, really important to do, maybe in the beginning, when you do readings, mediumship readings, you want to write down the information that you're getting, and then you can give it to the person. But you have to make sure that whatever you get, you give. I know that sometimes I had a tendency to not want to give all the information that I was getting because I was afraid, if it was wrong. But you really, in order for Spirit to give you new information, it's almost like you have to give what you have. I did a workshop, and this woman said that basically, if you look at it this way, that Spirit is filling up a cup of information, and they can't fill your cup up anymore if it's overflowing. So the only way to empty the cup is that you have to give your client or the person you're doing the reading for all the information, and then they'll refill it with new information. So it kind of forces us to give that information. So no holding back. make sure that you give everything that you get. And when you give the information, try to, if you can, don't do any interpretations. If you get a symbol, give the symbol. If you're getting a feeling about it, you can say, this is the feeling I'm getting, but that's my interpretation of it. What's yours? Again, to keep those messages open and keeping your client active in the reading. So you want to really, make sure that you're doing that and you're not going to shut that down. Okay. So don't forget, it's not easy sometimes in the beginning to wait for those messages. That's why if you want to do your first few readings remotely, I don't think that's a bad idea. If you want to call your friend and say, you know what, I'm going to try to connect to someone in spirit around you. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'll let you know what I get. So in this way, you could, like I said before, you could be doing it while you're doing the wash or while you're doing the dishes, where your conscious thinking mind is a little occupied. I know that a lot of times when I do a reading, if I have my angel cards, I'll sit there and I'll shuffle them. And I'll just look at them and shuffle them. And for some reason, just sitting there shuffling the cards keeps my mind a little bit busy. And again, it's easy for the messages to come in. I know George Anderson, who I love, he's a famous medium, and he draws, like he kind of, if you ever see him doing readings, he sits there and he draws. He scribbles kind of, and that keeps his mind busy so the messages can come in easier. So everyone has like their little things that helps them, and you're going to have to find yours. It's really interesting to watch how other mediums work. I love, watching how people get their information. It's all similar, but yet we're all a little bit different. I know there's a woman, Rita Berkowitz, and she's an artist. So when she sees the spirits clairvoyantly, she draws them. And I just love that. I wish I could draw, because I do see the spirits clairvoyantly, and I would love to be able to draw them. I mean, so many times what I see, when I see them, I can't even describe in good detail to this person what I'm seeing. So sometimes it can lose, that impact. But if I could draw what I'm seeing and then give that picture to the person, I just think that's the coolest thing ever. So Rita Berkowitz does that. You can look at her drawings online. It's amazing, and she'll show the picture that she drew next to the picture of the spirit, and they're like almost identical. It's that close. And I know there are people that will do spirit guides for you, that they'll draw, if they're an artist, they'll draw your spirit guide. So, there's so many mediums that do such fantastic work. And again, if you want to, look at some of these people, that's great, but don't do it in the comparison of making yourself feel bad. I know when I was first, really developing mediumship, Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, was on, and I was watching it, and I found the more I watched her, the more I felt like I couldn't be a medium. I was like comparing myself too much. And, I was just starting, and I'm watching this medium who has years and years and years of experience, and I'm comparing myself to her. So if you do, read about other mediums or watch them, if you find that you're comparing yourself too much, then just stop. Let yourself develop first, and then you can go check out all the different mediums and all the different styles, because it's really fun. It's really fun to see how other people do this kind of work. It's fun to see how do they begin a reading, how do they end a reading. I know John Edwards does the rosary before every reading, and that's a lot of work. That's like an hour's work of praying, and I tried to do that, because I thought, well, if I would be like John Edwards, then maybe I'll be a medium like him. But I really wasn't being myself, because that's just, doing the rosary just wasn't me. So, you can get a lot of ideas from different people, but when it comes down to it, we want to really try to be ourselves, because that's, what's going to work the best for us. But it is fun to see how other mediums work and what they do and what they use and how they receive their messages. So, definitely look at some of these other people that are doing this. It'll help you. You'll get like little tips. You'll get a tip from each person. So that's a fun thing to do. Okay, so have a great day.